This is a grand discovery. Gallop to my train, ride in triumph through the ford, followed by the bell horse and mules, and bow impudently to the flabby old deceiver, staring at me wondrously as I pass up the opposite side of the stream. Without stopping to rest, I push on over a swampy country with little clumps of alder and cottonwood trees, like islands, here and there, for 24 miles, keep as close as possible to the edge of the river, until we reach a large morass from which it heads. Here I camp, although I have not seen the trace of an Indian since leaving the village. Still, I feel sure they will follow up my trail. Light fires as usual and keep strict watch over the wearied, hungry mules. The men are tired and sleepy, but, jaded as I am in mind and body, contrive to keep them up to their sentry duty. They get an alternate sleep, I get none. May 22nd. Passed a miserably cold night. Blowing nearly a gale of wind, found all night in the morning. At daybreak, get the mules together and begin saddling. 2 mules managed to slip off about 50 yards from us when a sudden yell told us me they were gone. The Indians had followed and been concealed close to me in the bush all night. Afraid to make an attack, but waiting for a chance to stampede the band, this from my having lighted fires and kept watch, they were prevented from doing so. However, they made good the 2 that strayed. I stared after them, but deemed it prudent not to go too far. They also managed to steal a coat from my packmaster with $100 in the pocket. With high water, the trail through the swamp is impassable, so I have to go around it, keeping along all the small ridges where birch and alder grow, continuing this for about 18 miles and crossing several deep creeks and swamps, through which the poor mules are literally dragged, get on to higher and comparatively dry land. 2 miles of which bring me to the entrance of what my guide calls the desert. The distance across it, he says, is 40 miles, with but one chance of water. Into this barren waste, I did not think the Indians would follow. So, make up my mind to push on. Although my men and mules are fearfully fagged, I thought the Indians intended to pursue us to the edge of the wilderness, and went off our guard, worn out for want of sleep, killing us and driving off the bands of mules. I'm in very paradise of prongbuck, and bands of 20 or 30 that gallop up close to the mule, halt and have a good look, and suddenly scent danger. The leading bucks give a loud whistling snort, then away they all scamper and rapidly disappear. We shot as many as we needed, but at this time the does we killed were heavy and fallen. The size of the prong buck, when fully grown, is somewhat larger than the domestic sheep, but its legs, are being proportionally much longer, give it a greater altitude. The neck is also of greater length, and the head carried more erect. The hind legs are longer than the fore ones, a wise provision, not only tending to give additional fleetness, but maternally assisting it in climbing steep precipices and rocky crags up and down, which it bounds with astonishing speed and security. The back is a pale dun color, a transverse stripe between the eyes, the lip, and each side of the muzzle, a spot between the ear, dark reddish brown. The entire underparts, the edges of the lips, a large and most conspicuous patch on either side of the tail, pure white. The white meaning the brown of the back and about midway on the sides, forms a well-defined waving line. Horns, hoofs, and nose black. The horns, so marked a feature in the prong buck, are placed very far back and much compressed in lateral direction to about a third of their height, where they give out a thin triangular bracket-shaped prong, projecting upwards and forwards. Above the snag, the horns have a shiny surface, are rounded and taper gradually to a sharp tip. Bent into a hook, the horns vary greatly in the males. I have sometimes shot them with the prongs hardly developed, sometimes springing from the horn near the tip, and in others growing close to the head, where it is always uneven and warty. The female is devoid of horns, or only has them in rudimentary condition. The eyes of the prong buck are large, black, and expressive, but not a trace exists of a larmier or crewman, or a glandular opening beneath the eyes, so conspicuous in the generality of deer. The hooves are narrow and acute, but no trace exists of supplementary hooves usually found in all ruminants. Situated just above the pasterns at the back of the legs, the ears are very long and well adapted to catch the faintest sound. The hair is coarse, crimped, and orewy, growing in a tuft on the forehead, and during summer in a mane on the neck and back of the male. About the posterior third of the back is an opening like a tear gland in the face of a deer, from which a musky-smelling secretion continually oozes. The animal also has the power of erecting the hair of the white patches on its rump, as a peacock spreads its tail or a wolf bristles its back. This power of elevating or apparently puffing out these snowy markings adds immensely to the general beauty of the prongbuck. When wooing or striving to make the most favorable impression on his harem of does, or when in defense of his wives he rushes at some intrusive rival, the snowy round patches are rough to tremble all their natural size. The geographical distribution of the prongbuck is rather extensive. North it is found as far as the northern branches of the Saskatchewan, 53 degrees north latitude. It ranges all over all the plains from the Missouri to the eastern slopes of the Rocky Mountains, southernly in Mexico, as far as the mouth of the Rio Grande, through Oregon and California and into the Washington Territory, along the banks of Columbia to the Spokane River. Their favorite haunts appear to be the grassy prairies that extend over hundreds of miles without a break through Texas and Oregon, dotted everywhere with small patches of timber as the eye wanders over the limitless tract of prairie. These small isolated belts and clumps of trees that exactly resemble the beautifully natural wooded islands, studding a sea of waving grass. Here the prongbuck wanders in herds of from 60 to 70, naturally shy. Approaching them is not by any means an easy matter. On the least alarm, the male gives the shrill whistling snort, toss their graceful heads, sniff the air, and stamp their forefeet, then bound away like the wind. The herd circle round at first, then wheel up again in a tolerable line. Having another look, as if apprehensive of danger, dash off and seldom stop until safe from all risk of harm. There are two methods of hunting them, practiced by the Indians, on horseback and on foot. The former, 3 or 4 mounted Indians armed with bows, arrows, and lassos, approach from different points so as to get a herd of antelopes between them on the open prairie. Then they hide slowly round and round the herd, each time diminishing the circle. The terror-stricken beasts huddle closer and closer together and appear perfectly bewildered. Then, by this maneuver, the Indians have approached sufficiently near. Each throws his unerring lasso, then shoots arrow at the flying herd. As many as 6 are often killed and caught in one circling. On foot, the crafty Indians, getting the wind of the herd, crawls along the grass and every now and then lies on his back and elevates his 2 legs in the air. Attached to the heel of each moccasin is a strip of ermine skin, which floats like a pennant. The antelope soon notice it, stand and look. Down go to the heels, and on the Indian crawls as if the herd does not come towards him. He gets a little nearer in a short time. Their curiosity tempts them to approach slowly and cautiously towards the 2 feet, which are performing every variety of strange evolution. Near enough, they too soon discover their error. The twang of the string and whistling arrow that goes up to the tether end in the chest of the foremost male, warns the others to fly and leave their leader and king a prey to the wily Indian. We are on the sandy waste and right well does it merit the name desert. For a more dismal barren wilderness cannot be imagined. Its surface is all pumice and cinders, with nothing growing on it but a few sagebrushes and dwarf junipers. Every step the animal makes it fetlock deep in dust, that nearly chokes and binds us. Comes up from every direction, on and on and on we go, but no change, no hope of water.